Fear can paralyze us. It can make us not be as adventurous and stop us dead in our tracks. Everyone fears something. No one is impervious to feeling the anxiety that fear brings upon us. So what are some of the most common fears? Let's look at the top 10 and then compare them to the rational or irrational fears of some of our favorite NBA stars. Social phobias. Social phobias are the most common type of fear. They are considered an anxiety disorder and include excessive self-consciousness in social situations. Some people can fear being judged so much they avoid specific situations, like performing, speaking to large crowds, or even blowing their noses in front of others. Agoraphobia, fear of open spaces. While it is generally understood to be a fear of open spaces, agoraphobia is a much more complex fear. It is a serious anxiety disorder that can trap people in their homes or make leading a normal life next to impossible. Some people with agoraphobia avoid big venues. Acrophobia. Fear of heights. Some people fear heights so badly that escalators in the local shopping malls give them vertigo. Vertigo is different to the phobia and is the sense of dizziness people can develop. I've had vertigo before, and trust me, it is no joke. Other things, like looking over big edges, being in tall buildings, and looking out of the window, or seeing planes helps exacerbate that fear. Pteromohanophobia, fear of flying. This I know all too well. It's a real struggle, and with all the media coverage of air disasters, it is understandable many fear being in a plane crash and hence have a fear of flying. But with more than 100,000 commercial flights around the world each day, the chances of being struck by lightning are higher than dying in a plane crash, and it's the safest way to travel, or at least I keep telling myself this when I board a plane. Claustrophobia, fear of enclosed spaces. Sometimes the fear of flying is actually more closely linked to a fear of enclosed spaces. People with this fear say they feel like the walls are closing on them. Some theories suggest there is a general link to specific phobias as a kind of dormant survival mechanism. Entomophobia, fear of insects. They are small, they crawl, and they often bite, so it is understandable why many people do not like spiders and insects. But they are a crucial link in the food chain, and we cannot live without them. Ophidiophobia, fear of snakes. A fear of all things long and venomous is common to many. The great thing about snakes is that if you leave them alone, they will leave you alone. I have had it with these mother effing snakes on this mother effing plane. Samuel L. Jackson from the movie Snakes on a Plane. That movie gave me nightmares. Kynophobia, fear of dogs. A fear of dogs is a common phobia, particularly among children and male men. The fear can be exacerbated by a negative experience with an animal and can be one of the most difficult phobias to conquer given canines can sense people's fear. Astrophobia, fear of storms. It is understandable why the booming sound of thunder can send people's hearts racing, and fear of storms is common. Realistically, it is lightning that can hurt people, but the chance of that happening is remote, unless you live in New Orleans. Trust me, it's more common than you think. Trypanophobia, fear of needles. Having a sharp piece of metal stuck in your arm is always an unpleasant thought, and many people develop a strong aversion to needles. But needles are typically worth the pain, with them either delivering vaccinations, delivering blood donations, or helping to investigate a potential illness, and even creating a tattoo. Thankfully, this is one of the few things that doesn't bother me. But before we jump in, please remember that if you've enjoyed the video thus far and can't wait to see what some of the biggest fears are of your favorite NBA superstars, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and make sure to tell your friends and family about the journey we are about to embark on. Now let's dive in a bit deeper. First on the list is Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo is not a fan of house cats. It's surprisingly his greatest fear, and it's not just bigger cats like lions and tigers that are hunters at heart, but Carmelo's fears extend to the everyday house cat. You know, the one that chases balls of yarn or digs to find catnip. One has to ask how this fear started, but it is true that they aren't really friendly. They tend to stare through your soul with no love or emotion. So I guess he isn't completely crazy, but I agree, I am not a fan of cats. Give me a dog any day. Another superstar with fear of cats is Zach Randolph. Zebo, a 6'9" tower, once said, "I've got a crazy phobia about cats. For some reason, I'm always thinking they're going to scratch me. If a cat walks up, I'm going, oh no, this dude is about to scratch me. I know it. Cats scare the hell out of me." Next, we come to J.R. Smith. No, he doesn't have a fear of walking around shirtless, as evident after the Cavs won the 2016 NBA championship. Rather, the man has a fear of snakes. This is a common fear and understandable. I guess if you want JR to wake up and stop hogging all of the shots, toss a snake on the hardwood, and that would probably slow him down. The next fear is a bit odd, but hey, who am I to judge? Damian Lillard has a fear of statues. In fact, you will never catch Damian Lillard at the Statue of Liberty, David's statue in Italy, or the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt, because historic statues scare the heck out of him. According to Lillard, his fear is rooted in a bad experience at a wax museum. This condition is called automatanophobia, and the next time Paul George, aka Pandemic P, is guarding Lillard, maybe he should throw a statue of himself out on the court. Maybe then Dame Time would miss. This one is pretty silly but on brand for the man. LeBron James's greatest fear is failure. Now, I am one of the biggest LeBron fans in the world, and I do not hesitate to say he's the GOAT, but in this instance, I can't help myself. Maybe it's why he lost so many finals, you know? Because there was so much fear of failing that he did. Sorry, Bron. The next fear is pretty common. Legendary Spurs forward Tim Duncan has a bad fear of sharks. Growing up in the Virgin Islands, Duncan began his athletic career as a competitive swimmer. That was derailed, however, when Hurricane Hugo destroyed the only Olympic pool on the island. A strong fear of sharks kept Duncan from training in the ocean, and he instead chose to pick up basketball as his sport of choice. This is one of those fears that we are all thankful that he had. Could you imagine? No big fundamental in the NBA? That is blasphemous. But maybe it's a big thing, because in 2018, Shaquille O'Neal revealed in an interview with The Post that he was also terrified of sharks. He said, "I've watched When Animals Attack 1 through 10. Remember Jaws? I live in Florida. All the shark attacks are in Florida." Someone should do a research study to see if there's a correlation on height and size to the fear of sharks. I wonder what we would find out. Lastly, there is the great Kobe Bryant. He had a really weird fear. It's not taking as many shots as possible, it's not trying to take on 4 to 5 defenders at once, but instead, if you wanted to slow the man down, you could make sure there would be dog poo around. The reason for this odd fear is because early in his career, he stepped in it at a park in a brand new pair of Jordans. I'd be upset too, but seriously, no reason to fear it. I hear it's good luck too. So this goes to show you that no matter who you look up to or how famous they are human beings with fears just like us, even though that is questioned sometimes. So tell us, what are you guys most fearful of? Let us know in the comments. For me, the fear of flying and heights are what gets me still. Thankfully, they made drugs to sedate me enough to travel around.